Hello and welcome. My name is TyrionLanstr. Now, I want to talk a little bit about these different types of pairings within your commanders that you can use to kind of be most advantageous to forming different lineups. And it's really under this update, these lineup recommendations that they have made for us. And I want to just take a second to explain what they mean and what the reasoning behind those pairings are. So let's say I take a look at Annie for a second. When I look at Annie, I'm told that there's a total army buff bonus, spearman bonus, and then these female skill setup. And so as you can see here, this is my two kind of recommended setups. As you can see, this is a spear-focused setup where I have all spear commanders. And this is a group of all female commanders. And you might be asking yourself, well, why put all these female commanders together? Well, what I've done here for us is I've taken some screenshots of all their different skills. So let's take a look. So this is Layla's skill, and this is Salma's skill. I'm going to start with these two first. Now, what you see from these two is that Layla has a active skill, or her kind of mega awakened skill, states that when your female commanders use their active skill, that skill will have a 30% chance of being used 2 times, a 10% chance of being used 3 times, and a 3% chance of being used 4 times. So it's basically a multiplier on those active skills. If you have a bunch of active skills, they're going to keep using them over and over again, and that's pretty good. Now, Salma states that at the start of battle, allied female commanders have an 80% chance to use their active army skill 1 time directly. But the normal attacks of troops the allied female commanders belong to will have a 30% chance of missing the enemies in the first 5 seconds. So it's kind of a high chance of using this, and then you might be losing out on a little bit. But the point is that these are both conditional on having female commanders. So, what are some other female commanders that might benefit from this? Well, let's look at Cersei. Now, all of these kind of are based around one of the top 5 commanders because they're so strong and they want to incentivize you to use them. So if we look at Cersei's skill, when your commanders use their active skills, there will be a 20% chance of casting Wildfire, dealing 20% damage to all enemies. The normal attacks of enemies hit by Wildfire will have a 20% chance of missing their target. This status lasts for 4 seconds. So why does this all synergize? Well, because if your commanders are getting to use their skill extra times or use them at the beginning, and then they have this added chance of casting Wildfire, well, then they have an added chance of doing extra damage and making their opponents possibly miss their targets. So this is a huge buff. It is basically multiplying on top of itself the chance, because now Cersei's skill has a better chance of landing, because Layla's skill is popping off more, because Salma's skill is happening at the beginning. And then I just also took a screenshot of Annie's just to show that, getting to use her skills, someone like her that's a really strong commander, hers doesn't have anything else that synergizes with the rest of the female commanders, but that's a strong skill. She's a strong commander. If you put the 3 of them plus Annie plus basically any other female commander, that's going to be a really, really strong setup. So with that in mind, let's take a look here at what this says. Well, they've got Cersei, which we looked at, Salma, Annie, Layla, and then they chose for theirs, in this case, Miranda. So again, any female commander there would fit really nicely. If you wanted to use Lyanna, that would probably work fine. If you used Arya, that would work totally fine. But the point is that any of those 4 female commanders plus 1 is going to be a really, really strong combo. And if you do look here, they actually do have these brief descriptions of them here. I just like to be able to put them all up at once so you can kind of see them and understand them. So with that, that's kind of the centered around Cersei, around using those active skills more around the female commanders. So we just unlocked Peter Baelish. Where's that one coming into play? Well, that comes into play if we look here at Jaime. He's got the total army bonus, spearman bonus, but also healing and weakness attack setup. What the heck does that mean? Well, it's got these 5 commanders. So let's take a look again at our screenshots. All right. Now, first let's look at Baelish, because I think Peter Baelish is the one that really kind of ties this all together and kind of is a good place to start. So Peter Baelish says the War Soul Awakening skill will be used against all enemy commanders when 8 weakness attacks have been initiated by allied lineups, or 25 seconds after the battle begins. You can only use this once per battle. Enemy commanders have an 80% chance of falling into disharmony for the entire battle. Disharmony means that they have a 50% chance of attacking any lineups at the front of their own troops when using an active skill. So what this basically means, it's kind of a flip on that whole active skill thing. What this says is that if you get into disharmony, and again, there's an 80% chance that they fall into that, then half of their attacks are going to hit their own troops. So that is devastating. That's really, really strong, really, really interesting skill. Now, 25 seconds into the battle is pretty quick, but as we know, most battles aren't terribly long. Getting them to happen quicker would be good. And you get it to happen quicker if you can get 8 weakness attacks initiated. Well, how do you do a weakness attack? There's only one commander that allows you to do a weakness attack, and that is Jaime. So Jaime says, when allied lineups receive healing, the lineup's normal attacks change to weakness attacks. Remember those weakness attacks, 8 weakness attacks for 4 seconds. Weakness attack status: attacks the enemy lineup with the most troops lost and cannot miss. For every 1 weakness attack taken by the target lineup, weakness damage taken is plus 3%. So essentially this is a stacking thing where it's going to continually just pound down on those troops with the weakness attacks, and it's going to basically stack up those damage ticker higher and higher throughout the battle. So every time they heal, you're going to get 4 seconds of those weakness attacks, and if you get to 8, then you'll get to Peter Baelish's skill. So what we're seeing now is that we want to get those weakness attacks started. That's how you're going to get Jaime's skill to stack. That's how you're going to get Peter Baelish's skill to start going. How do you get your lineups healed? Well, there are a lot of different champions that heal, but especially with these new champs that we just got. So first you have Enzo, and this is really applied for Enzo, Drake, or Lats. All 3 of them have the same skill, but it's just for cavalry, spearmen, or infantry respectively. So I took a screenshot of Enzo's, but Enzo says every 3 seconds, Enzo will increase the cavalry defense by 5%, it stacks up to 6 times. At full stacks, then he starts to heal them. So just to do some quick math here, if it takes 3 seconds to get this up, and it stacks that 6 times, you're going to get this fully stacked after 3 sets of 6 or 18 seconds. At that point, every 3 seconds, then you start to heal your troops. So you're not going to start healing until 21 seconds in. To be clear, that's not that much sooner than the 25 seconds you get with Peter Baelish. So while this is good for getting Jaime's skill activated, and again, Jaime's skill is going to be good to have it on as much as you can, so having that healing every 3 seconds means that basically you're going to have this weakness attack going the rest of the battle, which is definitely good. Again, that would also only be on the cavalry lineups, but still, that would definitely be good. The other ways that you can do it, though, are with our 2 newest commanders to be unlocked, and that is Arslan and Hector. Now, let's first look at Hector's. Hector's states that after the first time army active skill damage is taken by each allied lineups at the front, all immediately heal 15% of the troops lost due to the damage taken. At the same time, the lineup's attack increases by 15%. So this is another one where you notice how in Jaime's you can't miss, which is kind of in response to that whole possibility of missing with the wildfire with Cersei. There are a couple other ones that have the chance of making a commander miss. This one, again, in response to an army active skill, then you have this chance, then you will immediately heal 15% and get army attack back in 15%. So that's really huge. This is, you'll notice, directly countering that female setup that is all about getting those army skills off. Hector's a really good counter for that. And it's going to start healing immediately, so you're going to start proccing Jaime's skill that much sooner. The last one that we got unlocked was Arslan. Now, Arslan's a free-to-play commander, so I was actually really surprised that they did this because it makes him immediately great synergy with Jaime and Peter Baelish. But his says in battle every 8 seconds, Arslan will heal 2% of the wounded for the ally troop with the greatest losses. So there are a couple of nice things about this. The first is that it's going to happen after 8 seconds. So you're going to start that ticking much sooner, but it'll still take about a full 16 seconds before this goes off entirely. being said, it is a little bit weaker as such, and it's not going to be continuous. It'll only be every 8 seconds that you get the 4 seconds of Jaime's skill. So 4 on, 4 off, kind of for the rest of the battle. Now, I think it's pretty clear that the best synergy is if you can get Hector, Jaime, and Baelish, and then, either Enzo, Drake, Latz, and then an Arslan, or if you can get 2 of the Enzo, Drake, and Latz, probably best. If you don't have enough for that, then Arslan's not a bad substitute. But those are all the ones that can possibly heal, and then get Jaime's skill going, and get Peter Baelish's skill going. What I want you all to notice is that for the longest time, people have been doing this female front heavy. That's been the main way to go. It's really, really strong, really powerful, and frankly, it was what was making people do so much damage. What I think is interesting about the game is that this new set with Baelish, Arslan, and Hector that just got released are a direct counter to that setup. So it's really going to provide people that want to invest and want to spend on Peter Baelish, on Hector, and on Arslan a huge, huge buff, because they are going to be wanting those army active skills to go off, which is what the other side also wants. When that army active skill goes off, you proc Hector, which procs Jaime, which procs Baelish. I really, really think this is going to be fascinating because it's going to really change the way the game works. It might add a aspect of, reconsidering, even if some commanders are your strongest, you're worried about the opponent's setup, you're not going to want to run that Layla, Cersei, Salma kind of set into a Baelish, Jaime, Hector. That's going to do really, really poorly. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this gets applied. It's really exciting, a lot of fun to look at, and I really like that they added in these lineup recommendations. As you can see, they've got Baelish, Hector, Jaime, and then they did Drake and Latz. That totally works fine. Basically, any of those 3 and then 2 others is going to work really well. Similarly to the female commanders, how it's those core 3 of Cersei, Salma, and Layla, and then whichever next two you can find that are strongest. In general, again, I think this is really interesting. They've made it intentionally very difficult to get. Peter Baelish is very expensive to obtain, and Hector is the first commander for us to get in a certain way where it does not allow you to use epic or elite tokens on him. So if I scroll down to Hector right now, just to show you guys, if I go to Awakening and I tried to convert, it says, only exclusive tokens can be converted for this commander, and general token conversion is not supported. So essentially, you can't use the elite and epic tokens for him. Definitely a real bummer. Definitely something that's going to make it harder to get Hector unlocked all the way, but it's going to make people that are willing to coin willing to go hard for it. So I think that it's important to note there are a couple of other commanders that they're doing that for as well. Off the top of my head, I think they said it was like Tyrion, and I think they said maybe like honestly, I'll pull it at some point and get the whole list. But they announced that there were a couple of them that were not going to be working with the elite and epic commanders. Here, let me try to do it this way. If I go to Awakening, I go to this. If I just hit use on this, it'll show me all the different commanders I could choose from. And you'll notice the ones that aren't on here. So you should notice there's no Hector on here. Yep, there should be no Tyrion on here, which there is not. And then any other commanders that are not on this list, that basically means that you cannot use the elite tokens to unlock them, which, again, definite bummer, but it's because it's really, really strong, and it's going to, be really, really tough for people to deal with. And so they want to really incentivize you doing, grinding for it. I think I noticed Darius isn't on here too. Simon isn't on here. And is Sabrina on here? I don't think Sabrina is. So I think those are the 5, if I remember them right. But anyway, I hope this was helpful, guys. Hope that you learned a thing or two about how these new commander setups work and what to do with Peter Baelish, what to do with Cersei. Again, this is really what a lot of the top accounts have been doing for a little while now. So I'm definitely excited to see how this changes things, whether people went hard for it. But until next time, this is TyrionLanstr signing off, and I'll see you then.